It is a pleasure for me to be here with you as a moderator of this important panel discussion. My name is ECHAVARRI. I am the former Director General of the Nuclear Energy Agency of the OECD. I am also very pleased to be also with Valérie FAUDON, Director General of SFEN, the Société Française d'Énergie Nucléaire, who also will be moderating with me, especially the questions from the audience. As you know, this panel discussions is about the business partnership as a vital requirement for the future of nuclear industry. You all know that nuclear has to face challenges, and one of them is to be able to deliver to the customers a product which really complies with their needs and also which maintains a competitivity in the sense of meeting the schedules, budget, and so on. So to discuss whether business partnership between major players could help in that process or not, we have here 5 important persons which have a long experience in dealing with these issues in companies which are key players in the world. And we have different standpoints because there are utilities represented here, there are people from vendors, and also from the nuclear energy societies. Let me say that the chairman of this panel is Dr. Kirill KOMAROV. He is the first Deputy Director General of the State Atomic Energy Corporation, Rosatom. And you know, Rosatom is a leader in the number of international commitments for new nuclear power plants. So his view on that will be very, very important. Also, we have with us Dominique MINIERE, which is the Group Senior Executive Vice President of Nuclear and Thermal EDF. As you know, EDF is the biggest nuclear operator in the world. So also his experience is very important in this field. Andreas LUSCH is the President and CEO of Steam Power of General Electric, which has been for many, many years a very important industrial leader all over the world, and that is now looking into the future also with new ideas and new strategies. Fernando NAREDO is the Secretary General of the European Nuclear Society. He has a very long story of experience with Westinghouse, with many years there, including being president of Westinghouse Nuclear in Europe, for the whole of Europe. And also we have Mr. Bohdan ZRONEK, who is a member of the board and chief nuclear officer of CES, which is an operator in the Czech Republic, which have very interesting ideas for the future of nuclear power. So I think these 5 panelists are going to really help us in understanding how global partnerships between major players can help in the process of delivering reasonable nuclear power to the customers. But the first question would be for Dr. KOMAROV. And could you please tell us what could be the prerequisites for creating a global partnership in nuclear energy? This need is coming from because new opportunities appear, or because there are challenges which are so serious which need the help of different companies on that. What is your opinion on this?
Thank you very much, Mr. ECHAVARRI. I think both reasons are right. On one side, we really have a lot of challenges, and from my point of view, 2 of them are now the most important for the nuclear industry. One is that our energy produced on nuclear power plants should be competitive from the price point of view. And this competitiveness now means not just to be competitive in comparison with other nuclear vendors. It means to be competitive with all type of production of electricity. It doesn't matter, is it renewables or coal or gas or hydro. And it requires from us to be able to provide to our customer, to provide to the market the most reasonable solution. And if we want to create such a reasonable solution, it's better to combine it from all available elements which exist on the market. And we in Rosatom have a huge experience how to work in such way, using Russian reactor, French turbine, some part of French instrumentational control, some part of French electrotechnic, a lot of industrial partnerships we have, for example, in Czech Republic, where Mr. ZRONEK is from, and companies located in the Czech Republic are very capable to produce the equipment on the base of our technologies. And all this should give us the opportunity to come with the most competitive bid to the customer and to convince the customers that he really needs not just some temporary solution, but he needs nuclear power plant as a solid, as a reliable, as a sustainable source of electricity, which can give to the client the guarantee of a predictable price for many, many years in front. And second story, which also, from my point of view, should unify all of us, representative of nuclear industry, that today, one of the main problems for us is the public acceptance. And this is not also devoted to any, specific nuclear technology, because we all are in a position when we should explain to the society, to the local authorities, to the government, to the politicians, why nuclear technology is safe, why it's reliable, why they shouldn't have any fears. And from my personal point of view, it's a common task. It's a task for each and every nuclear company. It's a task for our non-commercial association like World Nuclear Association, like European Nuclear Association, and we need to combine our efforts to be able to achieve this result, public acceptance, because the most right way to achieve this acceptance is to be very active, to be proactive, promoting nuclear technology, explaining people, providing them some knowledge about nuclear technologies, providing them open information. And it's what it's what unify all of us, because it doesn't matter what kind of reactor we use, French reactor or Russian reactor, from physical point of view, we should explain the same things. From safety point of view, we should use very common and similar standards. And it gives a lot of space for the opportunity to create a strong partnership, sometimes on case-to-case base, if we implement some specific project in a specific country, sometimes on much broadly base, when we unify our efforts and try to do something in a idea to achieve, for example, public acceptance and good level of this acceptance in the world. A lot of people know that we should reduce CO2 emission to achieve the green energy balance in our countries, but very few of them, if you ask them, will answer you that nuclear helps to achieve this green energy balance. They start to talk about renewables, they start to talk about hydro, but with all my respect to companies working in this area, and Rosatom is working in this area as well, without nuclear to achieve a green balance, it's totally impossible. And if we want to have some success, if we want to have a future for nuclear industry in the world, we should be very active promoting nuclear energy, and it's what unify all of us.
Well, Mr. KOMAROV, I think your point of the relationship between customer satisfaction and public acceptance is well taken, because, if customers are not satisfied, logically, how we can ask the public to really accept nuclear. So I think from that point of view, this is very important. But also we have here representatives from two utilities, which really are the customers of the main vendors on nuclear power. So they can tell us a little bit about what they think. Mr. MINIERE from France and Mr. ZRONEK from the Czech Republic can tell us how they see, from the utilities point of view, the value added of partnership between main suppliers of nuclear power, and what is their particular experience on that. So first, Mr. MINIERE, please.
Okay, thank you. EDF Group's objectives are to operate our power plant under the highest international standards and to strive for excellence, for sure. Our priority is nuclear safety. Our goal is to continuously improve our safety level and operational discipline, and partnerships enable, really, sharing the lessons from experience and the operation engineering of existing nuclear fleet in order to ensure the highest safety level and retain consistency between standards and procedures on an international scope and share the same benchmark. The operation and maintenance of our 58 reactors require a long-term vision of our industrial strategy. It is necessary and essential to share this vision with all of our suppliers. Ever since its construction, our nuclear fleet has continually mobilized very substantial industrial capacity, and we work jointly with French, but also international industrial partners who support us across all steps of the nuclear power plant life cycle, from construction to operation and decommissioning. Our priority is, and we have to work better together by sharing the same requirement, but also to gain in efficiency and therefore in competitiveness, as underlined by Kirill. The most emblematic example of the industrial mobilization is the rollout of our major fleet refurbishment program named Grand Carénage, intended to secure the continuing operation of our reactors after 40 years of operation, and which include both 10 years inspection, modification, safety enhancement, but also post-Fukushima modification, and also rehearsal and renovation and replacement of major components. Of course, the major project relies on industrial fabric that needs to be continuously working on top level. The question is how, without any visibility of the workload or share industrial visions, could companies continue to innovate and invest at all levels over the long term? That's why we do not work alone. We have to fix this issue, and we have fixed this issue. Our entire supply chain is implicated, and we partner with many French companies, from large groups like Alstom and our GE, Bouygues, SPIE, and I could name a lot of other partners, to multiple also small companies and intermediate companies who have grown in this field. Our priority is really to involve more suppliers very early, very on, from the design phase, by embedding construction and operation aspects into the design, with more proximity and more cooperation. Just to give you 3 examples, very concrete examples. First one, we try to work as an extended enterprise. That's very important. Performance of a project is based on the establishment of partnership who share interests between the players. So we put, for example, on some project, our team, but also the partners team around the same, for example, mock-up, in order to build the modification, to build the new equipment. Second point, we try to sign contractual agreement with our suppliers for maintenance outages, involving high stakes, in particular for the 10 years inspection. The goal is to implicate them in the modular preparation of our maintenance outages. It means to get them on board as early as possible, not only during the implementation of the work, but also during the preparation of the work, even in the design phase for some modification. That's very important too, and these changes in our modus operandi will help us gaining quality control and deadlines. But we must also encourage innovations developed by our suppliers, because our suppliers are also able to innovate and to bring us some more added values. That's what we have tried to develop under the name of productivity partnership. It means that's not because you have signed a contract, that everything is signed, that you cannot improve the way the work will be done. And ideas are really coming from our side, but also from partners, from our suppliers. And if an idea is very good, we implement it, and we share the gains, we share the added values. There's one part for us and one part for the partners. And really, this really has improved a lot innovations we can gain from our partners.
Many thanks, Mr. Miniere. Mr. ZRONEK, what do you can bring to the discussion?
I believe that our business partnership can or doesn't have rely not only on contracts and business itself as being contractors and suppliers, but also our partnership in its general meaning can help all of us in our lives, including the benefits for our stakeholders. I can mention the field of emergency preparedness and regional crisis center for Central and East Europe, which is settled in Rosatom premises, and it works pretty well. It's cooperation of several countries, several operators, and it's beneficial for everybody. If we look at the business side, we can mention mutual cooperation, which can streamline and which can bring more effective solutions. Again, I can mention, for example, the field of aging management or non-destructive testing, and our cooperation with EPRI, with the EDF, with Areva and many other companies. We can obtain effective solutions which are shared. We can also share research and development expenditures, and we also are able to use the results of the work, all of us. So this way, the final solution is also standardized, and it may help with the discussion with the regulators, especially in current Europe. Because every time we solve some technical issue, regulator is asking, okay, what is the solution from the other countries? So what is the solution of the country of origin? What is the solution of Western countries? What is the WNE recommendation? So if we will be unique and if we will be able to agree the final solutions, it will help us a lot. And as Mr. Komarov said, maybe more vital issue is our mutual cooperation at, let's say, political acceptance, because to keep a nuclear door open and keep nuclear power as a sustainable way of production of energy is business of all of us.
Okay, many thanks, Mr. ZRONEK, for this contribution. But now maybe we can look from a different point of view. Many people in the nuclear industry feels that nuclear is different from others and all that. But for example, General Electric has a lot of experience in other fields, not only nuclear. So do you think that nuclear is so specific, or that there are many examples that can be really used from other people, and that partnership can be found between nuclear companies and non-nuclear companies in order to improve the project? So what do you think of that?
Yeah, for sure. So generally speaking, I would say in GE, whether it is a coal project, a gas project, an offshore wind project, offshore grid connection project, or nuclear project, you always do this in partnerships. I mean, you cannot do this alone, and that's why I would say it's normal that you go into partnerships. What is specific for nuclear, I would say, is simply, first of all, the size. These are mega projects, and there are not so many people who can handle those projects, so you need very reliable partners due to the size and due to the complexity. If you look to the complexity regarding the technology, the safety, the qualification, certification, all of this, and again, the huge size, you have no other choice to be successful other than having a partnership. This can be on different areas, either on the technology side, and we have technology partnerships. We have this with EDF, we have it with Rosatom. It can be just a cooperation, it can be a JV, it can be a consortium. Important is that, in my opinion, you find the right partners, and that you put the result of the partnership, you focus on that and not of the result of the partners. So as soon as you start not looking to the result of the partnership and just look to your own benefit in the partnership, it will fail. And there are a lot of examples. I personally had such examples in my past because I was in the oil and gas industry. where we also had big projects in the refinery business and the petrochemical business. And what is important is that the partnership, that you have the right partners, that you have a transparent way of communicating, a transparent way of working, and again, try to help each other to make the project successful. This is, I would say, key. Perhaps some other words to how this will develop in future. So I could imagine that there is much more partnership in future also on the digital side, because what I see more and more, both on execution side, but also on the operation side, where we start already sharing tools, sharing digital data on the execution side, but also on the operation side. This is perhaps the next step of the partnership. But generally speaking, I think without partnership, you cannot be successful in this specific nuclear industry.
Many thanks for that. And now, from a different point of view, Mr. NAREDO is the Secretary General of the European Nuclear Society. So what initiatives the European Nuclear Society has in order to help in developing nuclear power, taking into account that you also have not only the European nuclear societies of every country, but also the large industrial partners there. So how you think that you can cooperate for having this global partnership that can help in developing nuclear?
Thank you, Mr. Tari. I should say the European Nuclear Society, for those that may not be familiar with it, is an association of associations. It is a federation of 21 national nuclear societies with 10,000 scientists and engineers in there. And these people are the people that are constantly referred to when we say people are important for quality, for success, for safety. Those people are part of the European Nuclear Society. The other element in the European Nuclear Society is the presence of the corporate members. And these are other stakeholders that could be research institutions in different countries. It could be corporations, like some of the ones mentioned. And they really provide the bridge between the scientific side of the society and the societies in the different countries and the industry at large. Now, if we look at the mission of the European Nuclear Society as a society of societies, it exists to help the member societies do a better job with their members, to provide better opportunities for development and training, to do nuclear advocacy for the technology, to do communications. And this all relates to the concern that Mr. KOMAROV was expressing of this is not going to be won unless we permeate society and eliminate all these myths that exist against our industry. The European Nuclear Society has now 40 years of existence, but the emphasis on public awareness and public acceptance is relatively recent. And one big driver of this at the national level is the activities of the young generations in each of these societies in all these countries. And the young generations are really connected across Europe with the numerous events and schemes they have to work together. And they are phenomenal, and they don't need a lot of coaching or guidance, and they do their own thing. And many of them have been very successful in their careers and play important positions in the companies that are represented here today. So that's a key element. Another element that I believe can help the total ambition we have is the work of the European Nuclear Society High Scientific Council. This is 20 people from 15 countries co-opted themselves to be part of this body that write positions, reacting to policy situations, research and development, etc. And also, for instance, run a yearly doctoral degree award, picking from the contests for doctoral theses that exist in each of the national societies. And the best 6 are selected to go and present to the Scientific Council once a year, and then the winner is the the winner of the winners, if you wish. And this has created an enormous amount of additional theses that have been presented in the countries, because it's not just the national award, it's this other thing above. So all these actions contribute to maybe addressing some of the issues that we've talked about in terms of acceptance, in terms of visibility, and in terms of the performance of the 10,000 that we're discussing here.
Okay, many thanks. Yes, this connects with the issue of the public acceptance that Kirill KOMAROV was mentioning before. And that is a very, very important point, because people is the key element in nuclear power, and the fact of having all these scientists really working in the nuclear field is in a big value of our societies in general. But let's have a second round of questions here touching some other different issues. Dr. KOMAROV, you were speaking about the importance of the global partnership and the partnership with the major vendors and all that, but is there some pitfalls on that? Because you are competing between different vendors. So maybe there are some situations in which, you know, it's not so easy to have a partnership with the people you are fighting for projects in the international market. So how do you see the mutual benefit for, even in those cases that you have partnerships with competitors, and what experiences and examples you can give us of that?
Bohdan is smiling because last competition was just in Czech Republic when it was a tender for 10 million project, and like you know, in an old joke, it was a battle between Russia, France, and United States. But all of us remember that this battle didn't give a positive result. What I mean? Definitely, I'm not against the competition. We all, from our childhood, know very well that competition is engine of development of humankind. And in a lot of cases, yes, you are right, we are still competitors. We are providing different type of solutions. We're providing different type of technology, and it's very good because we can look what our friends and neighbors are doing and take into account maybe we are on a right way or wrong way. It's good when we have some differentiation, because if everything is quite, you know, quite similar, it's not good for the customer, because customer should have some right for choice. But I think we should take into account that the process of globalization in the world means that people are specifying more and more to do some very, you know, concrete things. Means if you are, you know, the best producer of turbines in the world, I definitely do not mean anybody sitting on this panel, definitely you try to concentrate on this specific product and try to do it really the best product in the world. And you do not want to touch maybe some areas even connected with this product, but in other areas, because you do not have enough resources to cover everything. You do not have enough specialists. You do not have enough time. You do not have enough money. You do not have enough management team to cover everything. That's why you try to specify your resources on a specific product and really fulfill this product on the best level. And if we talk about, you know, a real competition, which is not, as I said already, which is not, in my opinion, between the different nuclear vendors, but it's mostly between different type of energy production, we should provide to our final customer the best available solution in the world. And take into account that nuclear power plant is a really complicated infrastructural facility consisting of a lot of different elements. Can anybody say that he is able to produce each and every this element on the most excellent way in the world? From my personal point of view, nobody can be so, let me say, unhumble. That's why if we really want, plus to this, we should take into account that for specific customer can be very important to, you know, to continue to use the same type of technology, which is very well known for him. If the customer has already, okay, 2 units on the base of same turbine or same instrumentation and control system, same electrotechnic, people prefer to work with the same product because it's much more easier for them. It's much more, be honest, it's much more safe, it's much more secured because you know this technology very well. Should you take this into account even if you come with another product like another nuclear power plant, but can you involve some very well-known elements for the customer just to give to the customer opportunity to operate the plant in a more easiest way? And I believe that if we look at the general map, if we look what we in Rosatom have to do today, we have 35 international projects, 35 nuclear units with capacity of 1,200 megawatt, which we plan to construct in nearest 10-15 years. It's a huge amount of work, and it's a huge space for everybody to participate in this work, and it's a huge opportunity to provide to the final client the unique complex of the best available solution in the world. And due to the fact that we are now in France, we discussed it today with Dominique in the morning that what we are doing today already with French companies, with Alstom many years, with Schneider Electric, with former Arriva, now Rosatom and Terana, give us firmer position that it's not just a dream, it's an available story. And in each our nuclear unit which we construct abroad, the potential share of French companies can be up to €1 billion. And it's huge, and it will be not just, order, it will be ability to provide to the client the best possible solution in the world. And what we're doing many years with French nuclear industry, for example, working with Rosatom, producing some part of nuclear fuel assembly on the territory of Russia, then the material goes to France and finally assembling in the final fuel and goes to the client. It's already more than 20 years of such cooperation. Each and every client knows today that he can buy natural uranium from Canada, then organize enrichment service in, I don't know, in France, for example, then, for example, order some fuel assembling on the territory of Russia, and it's normal because client want to have a best possible solution. Can we, as a producer of these components, organize the same way of cooperation, not waiting to the client which decide to split the order in several parts, but to organize some cooperation before and to try to, to satisfy the needs of clients before the client comes with such needs. From my personal point of view, it's possible, it's working model, it's what we are doing together with French industry, Czech industry, Hungarian industry, a lot of nuclear national industries in the world. And I think it's a best way for everybody, and we are now very happy when Électricité de France, for example, invites us to for some participation in Grand Carénage program. Definitely we, as every supplier, are unable to provide everything, but we can come with some components, and these components will be competitive and will give to Électricité de France the opportunity to continue the life cycle of existing fleet and produce the cheapest electricity in the world. And my idea is that we need to be focused on looking such opportunities, on looking areas for such potential cooperation, and put enough efforts to reach this goal.
Okay, so it's very clear the message. Competition and cooperation are compatible, and all of them in the benefit of the customer, which is the clear element. Well, let's see, Mr. Miniere, from another point of view. Well, domestically you have a very large program, but you are also an international partner, and with others. So how do you see the benefits in the international market of the partnership, and what example you can give of that?
We have the largest fleet in the world, so we enjoy, of course, unique expertise and experience. We have 1,700 reactor years of experience, so we have a large experience. Moreover, we are an integrated group with expertise in design, construction, operation, training, technical expertise, and decommissioning. With the reorganization of the French nuclear industry, one of our subsidiaries now is Rosatom, so we are much more integrated, and we can, of course, offer on the international market services from the design phase up to the site permitting, up to operation, up to decommissioning, and so on. So, of course, we could provide services on the international market, and we could see, maybe we could have thought before, that we should keep our experience feedback inside EDF, not to share with others in order to be stronger on the international market. We don't do that. Why we don't do that? It's quite simple. We share our experience feedback because we are also, and we are mainly an operator, and we know that if we don't share our experience and if other operators have some troubles, have incidents or even accidents, what we have learned now for more than 30 years is a nuclear accident anywhere is a nuclear accident everywhere. So the most important thing is to have safe operation of nuclear reactors worldwide. For sure, that's our commitment, and that's also our best interest, to be clear, for our operation of our fleet. One of the main consequences of Fukushima accident, except the consequence in Japan, was the phase out of nuclear in Germany, to be clear. So it's very important that we share this international experience. So we have example of cooperation. We are cooperating with Russia, for example, with Rosatom and Rosatom. We have a bilateral cooperation agreement on safety and operation, which was signed in 1994. Quite now, 25 years ago. So just to give you that we are cooperating, we have seminars together, we are sharing experience, operation control, maintenance and support engineering, skills management, nuclear civil liability, a lot of topics, quite a lot of topics. I have checked last time, I think we have more than 20 seminars, 20 common seminars between our teams of Rosatom and EDF, and we are really developing, we are learning, and we are also providing some experience, but we have learning on both sides, and I think it's very good for cooperation point of view. It's in this way that we have been able also to build after that business activities. But first, it was cooperation before business, because we need to know each other. In China, it's a bit different. After leading the design, building, and commissioning of the first nuclear power plant, international nuclear power plant, Daya nuclear power plant in 1994, and later with the assistance of CGN, the company in China, for the construction of the 4 reactors of Lingao power plant, we have been provided assistance to CGN in order to start up its program. To be clear, I don't think that we could have today make together Taishan nuclear power plant if we have not been at the beginning with them in Daya Bay and Lingao. The benefit to have cooperation with our CGN partners since the beginning has given the possibility for us to be partners in Taishan. And of course, we are going on. We have still people inside China. We have even set up what we call an entity based in Beijing and Shenzhen, a front office for group business in China. Moreover, we have been also able, thanks to this cooperation, to bring with us a lot of French industrial suppliers through a common barrier, which is Partenariat France-Chine Electricity, that has enabled a lot of French suppliers to set up joint ventures in China to develop and to sell products. So it's win-win also with our partners in France and with our partnership in China. And of course, it's win-win because when we were in the phase to develop HPC contract, Hinkley Point contract, we were looking for partners. And obviously, an obvious partner to come with us was CGN, because we have worked with them for a long time. So, you know, cooperation and business are not opposite. At the opposite, they are together.
Okay, very good for these very clear messages and experiences that you have. Well, let me now ask a different question. The Czech Republic is a country which is launching a new nuclear, and at the same time you have historically an important local industry there. How do you see the cooperation and the added value of having your local industry, cooperation with others, and really how you see the further development of nuclear power in the Czech Republic?
Well, there are two views on Czech nuclear industry in general, and also on Czech industry itself, because the world is changing and also industry is changing. On one hand, we may discuss long-term operation of current units with really strong support of domestic industry, including all of power upgrades, enhancement programs, safety improvement programs, and so on, which is really domestic industry driven with cooperation of original designer, of course, and some abroad companies. On the other hand, we actually discuss new builds up to 4 units in both sides. And it's in alignment with national energy strategy, with the goal to increase the ratio of nuclear power from 35 till 50% within upcoming, let's say, 20 years. And at this field, frankly to say, it is very difficult to imagine that more than 95% of deliveries will be covered by domestic industry, as it was in case of Temelín. It's gone, to be frank and honest. So we will have to rely on a general contractor with a strong ratio of domestic supplies, but it will be in the level of component supplies or maybe technological system supplies. Anyway, the local industry support will be part of evaluation who to start to work with, and also it will be very vital in future operation of new units, because some level of independence is inevitable, and we have to be responsible, and we have to be able to take care for our plants on ourselves using our capabilities. Actually, the public acceptance is not the issue in Czech Republic, because acceptance of nuclear in Czech is higher than 60 or maybe 2/3, 60-something% at the moment, and it's still rising. The issue is the investment model and the way of financing. Because if Kirill mentioned Temelín tender, which was cancelled, it was exactly due to current Europe situation and unclear financing model, because there is no source in Europe which is possible to build at the moment without any at least warranties or insurance of the governments. So this is the question for now for Czech Republic, to find the proper investment model, which is a more governmental issue than the operator issue, and then we may start with the real work.
Okay, many thanks for that. And let me ask a final question before we come into the question from the audience to Mr. LUSCH. General Electric is really a very important player in creating supply chains through the history of the company. And can you tell us a little bit about the reason for that, the motives that make General Electric to start to give such an attention to the supply chain, and also how you see the future perspectives of through partnerships of nuclear, how you see that?
Generally speaking, we have, of course, due to the volume we have in GE, we have a global sourcing network and look really globally for sourcing and also for localization of the raw materials, but also of the materials we are buying. Now, when we look to nuclear, this is not as easy, because on nuclear side, first of all, you have very high qualification and certification and inspection requirement. It's number one. Number two, also when we look to the materials we are buying, these are again massive materials. So if we look to the fortunes of a rotor, this is huge. If you look to the casing of a rotor for steam turbine, this is huge. There are not so many suppliers in the world. What we are doing then is again going into partnerships. I give you some examples. In India, for example, instead of localizing everything and building potentially a new factory, we have a partnership with BHEL, where we share technology as well as manufacturing capabilities between India and France. In China, as an example, Taishan, as you mentioned, Dominique, we had and have a partnership with Dongfang, where we also built together the steam turbine generator sets, partly in France, partly in China. And recently with Atomenergomash, we just discussed that we buy forgings and casings for the large machines for certain projects, which shows that again here you go rather in a partnership than to a global sourcing, because again you do not have a lot of suppliers who are first qualified and capable to do it and also competitive. Now I think there are other ways to localize and also to partner, and this is, I would say, I want to give also two examples. One we just yesterday announced, this is Jaitapur, where we, EDF and GE, decided to go together. Why? Because first of all, this is very complementary. We have a lot of experience now with projects and execution. We have a strong footprint in India too, so this makes a lot of sense. And I'm pretty sure that only by tying up together and bringing, as you said, Kirill, the best solution to the client, to the country, you can be successful. Another good example is our joint venture we have. This is not only a cooperation, it's a real joint venture with Rosatom, with Atomenergomash, where we have not, and this is not only a technology partnership, this is technology, execution, manufacturing, what we do together. And also this is very important for us, and I think also for you, because also here we are providing the best possible solution also to our clients with respect to performance of the overall plant, the water steam cycle optimization, everything, but also the execution side and the cost side, the competitiveness. So again, coming back, without partnership, we cannot go into this adventure, into these big mega investments. And again, it's important that we select the right partners. And as you can also see, there are not so many. No? So you have not a choice of 20 different partners.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much for that. And now, Valérie, there are some questions from the audience.
Actually, we have many questions from the audience. So the audience is very curious and has lots of questions. So I'll pick a few, and if you can be quick so we can have more questions within the time. So first, I need to make sure I understand the system. So it's a question about state financing. So while it's coming up to the screen, I'll read it. So how do you see the role of state financing in the future? Is it viable? Is it an area for cooperation?
Let me start. My firm opinion is that in the existing world, it's impossible to construct a nuclear power plant in a specific state without involvement of the state. What is the form of this involvement? It's a good story, because it can be definitely different. The state can be direct owner of nuclear power plant. The state can provide some specific tax regime or some another sort of privilege regime for this construction. The country can sign contract for difference, like is it in UK, or sign just a contract for buying electricity like we have in Turkey for some guaranteed time period. But the country should participate. Why? Due to minimum two things. First of all, the project is really huge, And for a lot of countries, it's maybe if they construct a nuclear power plant, maybe how the Hungarian Prime Minister Orban said once, the construction of Paks 2, it's a most important project for Hungary for 21st century. Full stop. Yes, if it's so important for the country should participate and create good base, good conditions for the project. And secondly, the participation of government reduces the risks of the project, because for every potential financial investor, industrial investor, it's the best guarantee that project is available, that it can be executed, because if government believes in the project, if government creates some condition, it means a good story available to participate.
Just to complement, I fully agree with my friend Kirill, but the state financing could be on two aspects, just to underline and to go in the same way. Of course, one aspect which is well known is PPA, or some kind of PPA, power purchase agreement on certain price, because the characteristic of nuclear is you invest a lot of money for several years, and you have no return on money for a long period of time, and after that you have some return, but if you cannot guarantee the return that you could have, it's difficult to have investors with you, to be involved with you. And second point, which is important also and linked to the first one, is if moreover you have some kind of state investment with you, it means that you have some guarantees that the state will be with you. In this case, you can attend an ROI, a return of investment rate, which is a bit lower than the one you expect when you are trying to finance only with the PPA. And second point is very important too, because just to give you a rough figure, a difference of ROI of 1% has an impact about of 10 euro per megawatt hours. So when we speak in euro per megawatt hours, you can see that if you have a ROI attended at 9% or 6%, to discuss the price of megawatt hour is very different.
Want to add something?
Yes, there is the question, what does state investment or state financing mean? Dominique mentioned the issue of return of investment because it's vital for private investors, and as for example, my company is partially owned by private investors. It's very difficult to discuss with them, let's invest your money into nuclear business because the return of investment is at least not clear or not as high as they would like to see. Kirill commented several ways of state financing. It doesn't have to be direct. I remember a discussion during the Temelin commissioning and construction period. It was the same, and still there is no single item in state budget, the Temelin power plant. And during 20 years of operation, Temelin earned enough money to cover all of expenditures. But it might be a question of state warranties and some kind of support to allow to do this investment, which is more strategic, as for example, building the motorways, than money-earning investment, as some of private investors would like to see.
Okay.
And it's also the matter of cost of the money, because if you go to the bank as a private investor or the investor which is at the stock market, you will get money for, let's say, 9 to 11%. If you go there as a state-owned company, you will get money for 3%, and it will seriously involve the final price.
Of course. So there's a question I really like, since I get to pick the questions, I take this one. It's the one on digital. We had, at the beginning of the week, as part of WNE, we had a review of about 50 technical use cases of digital technology in nuclear. So we are at the beginning of our digital transformation. So is it an area where we should cooperate more?
We do already. I mean, for example, Rosatom and us, we are already partnering on digital. As you know, in GE, we have this Predix platform, this industrial platform. We are programming apps on that, not only for nuclear, for coal, gas, everywhere, but also for the manufacturing. And I mean, we started here a cooperation and also with others. And I think this is just the start, as you said, and or the audience said, because what we are doing, we are bringing the platform, we are bringing our partners together with our experts, and then doing the application, the app, whatever we want to achieve with that, together the people and really developing it together. So it's a very interesting journey, and we are very happy to do that, because also for me personally this is completely new, I think for everyone else too, and it's quite interesting what you can achieve. I give just one example, that's on another technology, namely coal. There are in the meantime applications which we developed which are self-learning. So you have sensors, they are measuring, you want to optimize the outcome, no? And the program is self-learning, and after 2 days approximately you have the optimum in operation. So it's amazing what you can achieve, but here, I mean, you have to partner. This is not a client-supplier relationship, this is a partnering, definitely.
Just to add something very simple, we can speak a lot about the digital and things like that, but if it is digital close to partnerships, I think there is a simple things to do. Is what is already done in aeronautics activities and so on, is creation of a PLM, of a common base for new reactors. Now, for example, if you want to extend the idea of extended enterprise, you put around the same mock-up and the same twin, digital twin, the people in charge to design it, and you design collectively rather than to design separately, sending characterization and technical requirements. The other one is answering. This is the old way to design. If you want to design in a new way, you put the people in an extended enterprise around the same mock-up, the same twin, and you make really the reactor or the object together, and it secure a lot investment, a lot the lead time of delivery and things like that. It's obvious.
I can only add that digitalization is very good base for partnership, because you know, digital companies like IBM or Dassault System, they definitely can create a good product, but to make this product to be industrial, they cannot do it without involvement of company with industrial knowledge. And what we are doing now together with companies which I mentioned, and with a lot of Russian companies, maybe not so very well known, we are using digital knowledge of Dassault System, for example. We are using industrial nuclear knowledge of Rosatom, and we create together a common product for our own needs and definitely for needs of our partners and clients as well.
One more.
I have a wonderful one. So, just a second. So I'll read it. It's how can we re-enchant the nuclear industry? How can we make people dream again about nuclear? And how can do it together? Yeah.
So let's start. How to make them dream about nuclear? We have to bring them the future. We have to bring them the reason why we are here. What are the benefits with awareness of potential consequences? But giving people a future and giving them a job which is enjoyable and full of passion, it's the way how to attract them.
Just to complement, I think we have not to re-enchant only nuclear industry. We have to re-enchant industry, largely speaking, at least in Europe, because industry is seen as something of the past. But I do believe, because of the stakes of the future in the world, access to energy, access to water, capability to live in cities, in large cities, we see more and more. Industry is not something of the past. It's a solution for the future. I do believe that industry is a solution for the future, and nuclear industry is a solution for energy cheap, accessible, really without CO2, without CO2 emission. So we have to explain that a lot and to deliver this message as much as we can collectively.
No, I believe that we can provide something to people to increase the level of trust and increase, you know, ability to dream. 15 years ago, in our country, it's possible to have high technological education for free, and it's paid for government or for your own money. And when 15 years ago we had a process of inviting young people to be nuclear engineers, we had less than one guy for 2 places what government was ready to pay for. Today we have totally controversial story, 10 volunteers on 1 place. Why? Because people saw that during last 11 years we commissioned 13 new nuclear power plants. It's not a dream, it's a reality. And they want to work on these plants, they want to have a future connected with nuclear industry because they see the realities that nuclear industry is developing. We have now a huge process of development of nuclear in the world. This year we expect approximately 14 gigawatt of new capacity in different parts of the world. It's the best evidence for young generation to be sure that the future connected with nuclear, the future based on nuclear, it's good future.
Thank you very much. Question.
Okay, Valérie, many thanks. Let me conclude the panel discussion saying that, in my opinion, the messages are very clear and very concrete, and with examples of how, without partnership, many of the projects will not be possible, and also it will be extremely difficult to provide to the customers the solutions they need for the production of electricity from nuclear, and also that there is a connection between the success of these projects and how the population, the society feels about public acceptance. So partnerships are an essential element in order to continue improving the quality and the capacity of the projects that we are putting in the markets. And we have also seen that that's compatible with the competition that the major players have. So both things can be part of the future. And let me finally say that thank you very much to all of you for having listened to this discussion. I think your interest is very welcome from us. And also let me thank Rosatom for the organization of this panel discussion, and to Kirill KOMAROV as chair of the panel for his presentations and discussion, and also Mr. LUSCH, Mr. ZRONEK, Mr. MINIERE, and Mr. NAREDO, and of course Valérie for the participation on that. Thank you for that, and logically with that leadership, I think that the clients will be satisfied that you have very clear ideas on how to deliver. Thank you very much.